Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to The Fragrance Well. We're going to talk about a subject matter today that I have talked about on the channel, but we're just doing another version of it. Have you guys got any fragrances that you held up in high regards within your collection and then you either got your nose on something or got in a new fragrance that kind of upgraded the previous fragrance? I've got 5 fragrances here that has definitely been the case with me. If you smell enough stuff, you're ultimately going to come across this. I do think it should be something that happens somewhat rarely because most fragrances are pretty much on a level playing field if they share some type of similarity. Very few, in my opinion, tend to upgrade the other, or maybe it's not upgrading it enough to really spend the money on it. In my personal opinion, you can certainly disagree, but yeah. All that being said, I've got 5 fragrances here that I held in some kind of high regard throughout my collection journey, and then at some point, something about it has been upgraded from a newer fragrance acquisition that I've got. And let me be clear, newer fragrance acquisition doesn't necessarily have to be a new fragrance. And when I say upgrade, it can mean whatever you want it to mean. Whether you think the fragrance just simply smells better, is a better iteration of it, is a flanker of it that you think does a better job with the original DNA. It can just be a better style of fragrance, something within a particular genre that you think this one just does it better than this one does. I've got a fragrance that does that. Whatever you want it to mean. And we're gonna go ahead and get started, so let's not waste any more time. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like this content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about the fragrance that is getting upgraded and then talk about the fragrance that upgraded the previous fragrance, and then we'll go on to the next one. So 5 upgrades, but 10 fragrances total. Let's kick it off with this one from Dior. It's gonna be Sauvage Eau de Parfum. Dior Sauvage Eau de Parfum. All right, so I got this really early in my fragrance journey. I'm talking about like the first month or 2. I don't remember exactly. I think this was like the 3rd or 4th fragrance I bought from collecting. And the thing about it is, while I was kind of aware of Sauvage's existence, I wasn't familiar with it. I had never worn it. I didn't have any experience with it in terms of wearing it, just kind of knew it existed. And the thing about it is, if you're new to this fragrance, most people I think are really gonna like this. I certainly held it in very high esteem when I first got it in my collection. I thought it was amazing. The fragrance certainly did what it does for most people, certainly got positive attention, lasted all day, projected nicely, smelled nice, etc., etc. But ultimately, if you're in this hobby long enough, you're gonna come across a lot of stuff that's just gonna make you be like, okay, Sauvage is nice, but you know, it's kind of a lowest common denominator type of fragrance, if you will. You know, pretty much smells like a shower gel. It's a shower gel type fragrance. It's fresh, it's peppery, it's clean, certainly masculine. Has a little bit of sweetness to counter the spicy element and the peppery element that it has. And I'm not a Sauvage hater. I think Sauvage still is a great scent choice for a lot of people, but you know, you are certainly not gonna smell unique because a lot of people are wearing Sauvage. I've been to many occasions where, you know, people could have stepped their game up, but they rock Sauvage because, hey, it works. It is what it is. But all that being said, yeah, I'm not a Sauvage hater. Like I already said, I think Sauvage is a great fragrance, but ultimately I have come across not just fragrances in general that I would choose over this, but actually some that kind of took some inspiration from it and I think did, well, at least what I would consider a slightly better job, or maybe I just simply like what they did more so than with Sauvage. So once again, from Dior, this is the fragrance that is getting upgraded. It is Sauvage Eau de Parfum. All right, guys, so the fragrance I have that is upgrading Dior Sauvage Eau de Parfum is gonna be this one here from Jezada, and this is Ambassador. Jezada Ambassador. Shout out to Jezada once again. This fragrance was sent to me along with a couple of their other offerings, and I gotta tell you, this was a surprising scent to me. I had heard of this fragrance, but I didn't know anything about it. I had never really heard anybody give any comparisons to it. But as soon as I smelled it, I was like, you know what? This kind of smells like a fruity take on Sauvage. Also, not as peppery, a little bit smoother, less of the shower gel vibe, in my opinion. So that's what I like about this. So yeah, again, it's got fruitiness to it. It has a similar spice profile with like peppery notes and lavender to give you that Sauvage idea. It's woody, it's a little bit sweet. Actually, this is probably a little bit sweeter than Sauvage. And to be honest, it kind of works the same way in terms of that complement department. The projection and longevity are somewhat similar, if you will. So it is, in my opinion, a fragrance that took inspiration from Sauvage, but did put their own take on it. But I actually like how much smoother this is, even though it has that fruitiness, which would make it a little bit more playful overall. But the way it comes across is it's not like a juvenile fragrance, and I don't mean that as a knock, just saying. But yeah, it's smoother. And I like that fruity touch to it. And honestly, once it dries down, that fruity touch kind of goes away, like within the first hour or two on my skin. And then it's just a relatively somewhat spicy but smooth, woody, fresh and clean fragrance. I really like how this develops on the skin. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this. But in my opinion, if I were going to choose something that was close to a Sauvage DNA, I would actually go with this over Sauvage Eau de Parfum. So this fragrance here upgraded that fragrance for me. Once again, from Gizzada, this is Ambassador. All right, let's move on. The next one is coming from Guerlain, and this is L'Homme Ideal EDT. Guerlain L'Homme Ideal EDT. The fragrance that started the Ideal popularity, if you will. You always got to give nod to the original, because obviously it did enough to capture the audience, the fragrance audience, if you will, to encourage flankers from it. And there's obviously plenty of flankers from L'Homme Ideal. Now, here's the thing. I really, really do like the EDT DNA. I like its, slightly gourmand touches, but its woodiness, its somewhat freshness to it, and it's not ridiculously sweet, which is what I really appreciate about this fragrance. I am going to say that the Extreme, which I think is probably one of the two main most popular ones in terms of flankers from this line, I don't really care for the Extreme. It's a little too sweet in a way that I just don't really enjoy. It's kind of obnoxious, if you will, as a scent DNA. And I don't have a problem with sweet fragrances, but the way that one does it, I just wouldn't call it my favorite. It's not to say I wouldn't wear it, but I just wouldn't call it my favorite. And that is not the upgrade fragrance for this. But yeah, L'Homme Ideal EDT, I think there's still plenty of fans for it. I know they still sell bottles of it, because anytime you have a line of fragrances, often the original tends to keep doing well over many of the flankers. But yeah, this is the fragrance that is going to be upgraded, and I kind of hinted at it already. It's going to be a flanker upgrade. So I'm basically choosing one of the flankers out of this line as the upgrade for this. So once again, from Guerlain, this is L'Homme Ideal EDT. All right, guys, so coming from Guerlain also, this is L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum. Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Eau de Parfum, this is my upgrade to the EDT. Now, I imagine a lot of people would choose one of the flankers over the EDT, even if they really like the EDT. But this is the one for me, not the Extreme. There are a few flankers that I still need to get my nose on, so this one could even upgrade this one. But I really like what this one did with the DNA. So you still got the almond characteristic, still got the slightly gourmand characteristic, you still got the woody element as well. I really like how the almond is used in this one. It's a little bit more present, adding a kind of a nutty, powdery element to it. And my favorite thing probably about this is the leather that is in here that just kind of mixes in with the base notes of the fragrance. To me, when I first got my nose on this is the only Ideal I've smelled that really popped off some chemicals in my brain to say, that is awesome, I gotta have that. The EDT, when I first smelled it, I thought it was really good, and it was just a really good deal, so I grabbed it. Extreme was a blind buy, and I wasn't heads over heels for that one, but this one here really excited me, so this is my upgrade over the EDT up to this point. Again, still some I want to get my nose on. I still need to smell, what is it, Linstinct? I think that's how you pronounce it. That's the one I'm talking about. I still want to get my nose on that one because I've heard people describe that one. Sounds like I would like that one too. We'll see. I'll probably just get a sample of it or blind buy it at some point. I mean, you can get it for an okay price as well. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. From Guerlain, L'Homme Ideal EDP is my upgrade over the EDT. All right, guys, so for this next collection of fragrances, this is going to be based off of a certain style of fragrance, and it's going to be the Oud Rose combination. So, from Maison Francis Kurkdjian, we've got Oud Satin Mood Extrait here. Maison Francis Kurkdjian, Oud Satin Mood Extrait. Now, another one that I got my nose on relatively early in my fragrance journey, and like many, held it in very high regard. I still think the fragrance is great. This is going to be, as I stated, a rose and oud style fragrance, but it also has notes of Ceylon cinnamon, adding a fresher, warm spice kind of characteristic to it. There's some other florals in this to aid with the rose. It's a very jammy rose feeling, extremely sweet, very rich and decadent fragrance. Lots of vanilla in this scent as well. So yes, it is an oud rose fragrance, but with many supporting characteristics, which is not atypical of an oud rose scent. Now I've told the story before, at least I think I did, that I originally got my nose on a fragrance about a year ago from this time that made me immediately consider this as a lesser than fragrance. Now that's not to knock it, that's not to degrade it. I'm just saying I got my nose on something that made me think like this is a better version of an oud rose scent than Oud Satin Mood is. So this is the fragrance to be upgraded. Let's move on to the upgraded fragrance now. Once again from Mason Francis Kirkjohn, this one here is Oud Satin Mood Extrait. Alright guys, and the fragrance to upgrade Oud Satin Mood for me is going to be from Arabian Oud. This is Royal Oud. Arabian Oud, Royal Oud. So, remember, stylistically, rose and oud. This fragrance is literally oud, rose, and musk. That's it. It's much simpler, but the quality of all of those ingredients is top tier. And when I first got my nose on this at an Arabian Oud boutique in Philadelphia, actually, and it was about a year ago to the date, man, I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. Shout out to Equality Fragrance. He actually had talked about this, I think in just a post somewhere, and that was the first time I actually heard of the scent. And I said, hey, I'm actually near an Arabian Oud boutique. Let me go check that one out. And I did, and mine was absolutely blown. But yeah, this fragrance here is like a royalty based, as the name would imply, oud and rose fragrance. Quality is just way up there. I think the effectiveness of the scent in terms of garnering positive attention is just as good as Oud Satin Mood. Now, I can understand if some people may get their nose on this and may not necessarily agree with me that it's a better fragrance or an upgrade to the fragrance, maybe based on smell. Oud Satin Mood does have some elements that, you know, are meant to draw people in a little bit more than this does. But again, to me, I think it's the same, and I would be pressed to say that if you think this is not as a higher quality than Oud Satin Mood, you may need to get your nose on some more things. This is a higher quality than Oud Satin Mood for sure. So that's my upgrade to Oud Satin Mood. Once again, from Arabian Oud, this is Royal Oud. All right, guys, so the next two fragrances are also going to focus on a style of fragrance, and that's going to be a focus on aquatics. So coming from Giorgio Armani, this one here is Acqua Di Gio Profumo. Giorgio Armani Acqua Di Gio Profumo. Now, hope I'm not triggering anybody by saying this is the fragrance to be upgraded, because it is. The thing about this is I still think this is by far the best Acqua Di Gio. So it's not a concentration thing. Or sorry, it's not a flanker thing. Yeah, still by far my favorite Acqua Di Gio, and not even close. It's the only one I really feel I need to have in my collection. But it is a fragrance line that is based around the aquatic style for the most part. And this does have aquatic notes, a little bit ozonic, a little bit salty, some spicy elements to it as well. What sets this one apart for me is the patchouli and the incense. I really love that addition and how it is used in this particular fragrance. I also credit this with being the fragrance that kind of made me rethink the idea that I just don't like aquatic fragrances at all, because there was a time when I didn't care for aquatics whatsoever, and Profumo is the one that's made me rethink that just a little bit. It's like, okay, maybe I do like aquatics, but they have to be presented in a particular way. So I do hold this fragrance in high regard for that. But naturally, as I've gotten my nose on more aquatics that show me that I actually do like aquatics, just of a particular style, I've got one that I consider to be the upgrade to Profumo. So once again, from Giorgio Armani, this one here is Acqua Di Gio Profumo. All right, guys, so the one I consider to be an upgrade is going to be from Lorenzo Pizzalia, and it is Black Sea. Lorenzo Pizzalia, Black Sea. So this one here is what I like to call a darker aquatic fragrance. The aquatic notes in this are much deeper, much heavier, not as light, maybe not as clean if you want to consider it that. This is a fragrance that is inspired, well, it's the write-up says it's basically inspired by like a stormy sea approaching the shoreline. I think that attitude is definitely captured in this scent. And so therefore it's going to be not for everyone. There are some heavy ambergris-like components to this, so that might throw some people off. I know not everybody likes that. It's very, very green also. kind of got this algae characteristic to it. Very powdery also, like this kind of overly salty element to it. It's a heavier aquatic that for whatever reason just really clicked with me. I actually got a sample of this from Lucky Scent based on them literally advertising the fragrance. That's it. I knew nothing about the house. It was not being talked about at all in the fragrance world, and I just got a sample of it, was completely blown away by it, knew that I was gonna get this one day. And hey, look at Lorenzo Pizzalia now. I'm not saying I'm responsible for it, but look at Lorenzo Pizzalia now. It is one of the newest kind of darlings in the fragrance community, if you will, and I think it should be. He makes some really interesting, really great fragrances. But yeah, this is a deep, dark aquatic that instantly clicked with me, and this style of aquatic is what I really, really like. So naturally, I consider it an upgrade as far as aquatics go to Acqua Di Gio Profumo, because it's not that type of aquatic. It's more of a baseline aquatic that is meant to appeal to a lot of people. So once again, from Lorenzo Pizzalia, my upgrade to Acqua Di Gio Profumo, this is Black Sea. All right, guys, and my final upgrade pair for this video, we got one from Mancera, and this is Red Tobacco. Come on, focus, thank you. Mancera Red Tobacco. All right, so Red Tobacco, one of the most well-known fragrances in FragCom. I'm not gonna say it's one of the most popular, because there are some people that, don't really get down with this scent, and that is totally understandable for the rough opening that it has. In my opinion, I think it just has a very screechy saffron to the opening of the scent. I think that's what throws a lot of people off to it. When I first sampled this years ago, I didn't have a problem with it. But I could also understand why people have a problem with it. But yeah, that's really the biggest knock for this fragrance, is that screechy opening, and that is fair game. But other than that, it's basically a spicy and sweet tobacco fragrance. I do find this to have some ashy elements to the tobacco element that is in this fragrance, but the sweet notes, the ambery notes, the woodiness that you get once the fragrance kind of settles down a little bit is undeniably an amazing smell and an amazing fragrance category, if you will. Sweet, spicy tobacco is very popular in FragCom and does really well with like cooler weather fragrances. As far as what I'm gonna give the upgrade for this fragrance, it is going to be a fragrance that I actually recently talked about, and it does share a lot of similarity with this, so you could say it's an inspiration slash a similar fragrance type, if you will. So the fragrance to be upgraded is from Mancera, and this is Red Tobacco. All right, and my fragrance to upgrade Red Tobacco is going to be from Algabra, and this is Jamaican Tobacco. Algabra Jamaican Tobacco. So I literally just did a full review on this just a few videos ago. So I can go into a lot more detail in that video in terms of the comparisons I have between these two, because I did talk about Red Tobacco in that video. But anyway, this one here is, I think, taking some inspiration from Red Tobacco, at least to my knowledge. That's just, I got Red Tobacco first and then I smell this, so I'm gonna make that reference point. It could be something else. But quality wise, it leaps over what Red Tobacco is, but it is also a simpler fragrance. It doesn't have anywhere near as much going on as Red Tobacco, so some might see that as a separation, and I do too, but it is a similar style. It is spicy, it's a tobacco fragrance, and it has some sweet elements to it. This is more spicy than it is sweet compared to Red Tobacco, but overall the fragrance is just smoother. There is no getting used to the opening of this fragrance. It is amazing from start to finish. There is no waiting for it to dry down, waiting for it to settle to be more likable on the skin. As I said, it's spicy. It's almost got like a red fruits or maybe even a dried fruits characteristic. I think it's more of a red fruits kind of characteristic than it is dried fruits. And the tobacco, very, very smooth, not overly ashy with this one in my opinion, not really as smoky as I think it is in Red Tobacco, and some ambery notes to sweeten it up just a little bit, but nowhere near as sweet. Overall, I think just a much more mature, polished take on a DNA that is synonymous with the Red Tobacco. And yeah, that's why I had to give this one an upgrade. When I originally first got my nose on this, I kind of just wrote it off because of the similarity to Red Tobacco, but then I tested it later on and I saw that there's a massive quality difference, and it is definitely an upgrade to Red Tobacco that I don't mind paying for. So that's why it's the upgrade to Red Tobacco, and that's why I have it now. Once again, from Algabra, this is Jamaican Tobacco. Alright guys, that is gonna do it for this video. If you would, let me know down in the comments below, what is a fragrance that you held in high regard, that you ultimately got your nose on, or bought another fragrance that upgraded the previous fragrance? I would love to see what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I'll see you all in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.